Roll call, Mr. Karati.
Mr. Raccomando,
Present.
Mrs. Borelli,
Present.
Mr. Buffy,
Present.
Mr. Avison,
Present.
Mr. Quinn,
Present.
Ms. Sanchez,
Present.
Mrs. Canipico,
Here.
Mrs. Zattarelli,
Here.
Mr. Gira.
Present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been sent to all members of the Board of Education and to the Bergen Record in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, 1975.
First item on my report is our mid-year HIB report. This Department of Education requires 2 public reports of HIB data throughout the year. At the halfway point through this year, it's going to go through each school, the number of investigations, the number of confirmed cases, and then any trends or patterns that we noticed. We actually have had many fewer investigations and reports this year. And I think most districts have experienced that. With each year that the law has been in effect, the number of investigations has declined. Part of that is probably some improvement in the schools with school cultures across the state, because I think there is an impact, and I think schools are definitely paying more attention to character education programs. But another reason for it is when the law went into effect, a lot of people just had some panic with the language of the law and making sure that nothing was missed. So there was a lot of reporting at that time, and now we're seeing that things are being handled more in a, I'm saying a more appropriate way, I guess. Our high school and middle school had 6 HIB investigations this year and 2 confirmed cases. The 2 confirmed cases were both in the 7th grade. Franklin has had no investigations this year. Long School had 2 investigations, neither of them confirmed HIB. Both of them were mutual conflict. Both of them were in the 5th grade. Smith School had 4 HIB investigations. Again, none of them were confirmed HIB. 3 cases were in the 4th grade, and 1 was in the 1st grade, and all 4 of those were mutual conflict. And Washington School has had no investigations. The next item is school performance reports, but I have a slide I want to put up, so I'm just going to go through a couple other notes first before I do that. We had talked about last month, we accepted a resignation last month, one of our high school math teachers. We've conducted a search. We went through several rounds. We're still collecting resumes, but at this point, none of the candidates were successful. So what we've decided to do, which really is from an educational standpoint, is really the best decision anyway, is to suspend the search at this time. If we continued with the search and hired a teacher, they would be required to give 60 days notice. So in the best case scenario, even if somebody was approved this month, we're talking about somebody starting in April. The teacher that resigned initially went out on a medical leave in October. So we've had the classes filled from teachers already within the school building. So rather than disrupt all these students' classes again, bring in a teacher who's new to the school, new to the district, we have our own math teachers teaching in these courses already. So they're going to finish the year. It's more continuity for the students, and the teachers are all settled in. So we'll finish the year the way we are now, and then do another search in the spring and hire a replacement for this position in September. We received a letter about 2 weeks ago from Nicholas Sacco, state senator, and what he's asking for is public school districts, and this is not a new topic, but public school districts to kind of join his effort to work with NJSIAA and really encourage them to create separate leagues for the public schools compared to the private and parochial schools. This is something that's been especially an issue in northern New Jersey, and especially in Bergen County, where we have some of the more, say, powerhouse sports teams when it comes to the private schools. We're recruiting, not only locally, but from other states. And many schools in the area are forced to compete with them. It's a competitive disadvantage, and it's a safety issue. So we have put our support behind it, which is really a matter of just saying that we support that. For us, it's not, necessarily Bergen Catholic or St. Joe's, but we do compete against private schools who, again, compared to a Group 1 school, have those same types of advantages. So we're hoping that that same thing can be done and put us all on a level playing field. Then the last item before the performance reports is just to thank our custodial and maintenance crew. We kind of made it through November and December and January, most of January without any storms, and now it seems like they're coming one after another. And all of our buildings have been ready when they need to be opened, and they've really done a lot of work and in the wee hours of the morning and late night hours as well. And just want to make sure that people know how much we appreciate their work and their efforts in getting our schools ready and safe to be open. All right. Any questions on any of those? Okay. There's just one slide that I want to put up here. In the past, the state put out New Jersey School Report Card. The state put out annually New Jersey School Report Card. That has since changed. 3 years ago, that was changed to school performance reports. So I just want to explain to you what these numbers are, and you can kind of look at the colors too, and that'll be the easiest thing to see. At the top, you have Franklin School. It says academic achievement, CNC readiness is college and career readiness, and then student growth. It's the same for Franklin, for Long, and for Smith. For the elementary schools, academic achievement is the measure of our students' scores on the NJS. College and career readiness in elementary schools is based solely on attendance. There's nothing else. It's chronic absenteeism. That is the only measure in the elementary schools of what defines college and career readiness. Student growth is defined as its growth. It's when we talk about those student growth percentiles, it's a long explanation of what that is, but essentially every student is placed in a peer group where they're compared against students who score similar to them on the NJASC. And then you're put into a group of students who score similar to you. On your following year's score, they look and kind of line you up by score to see how much you grew compared to those students like you. So a school score takes all the growth scores from all the students in grades 3 through 6 who tested, and it's the median of all of those scores. So in blue on the right, so the first column is the 11-12 school year. The second one is 12-13, and then the third one is 13-14. All three of our elementary schools, and I only went back 3 years because that's when it changed from the school report card to the school performance report. So the state's only been reporting data in this form for these 3 years. All three of our elementary schools have their highest scores that they've ever had on these reports last year in academic achievement and in student growth. So our students in all three schools demonstrated more growth last year than they have before, and they achieved at higher levels than they have before. That's all three of our elementary schools. Where you'll see a big disparity, and so that's blue. The blue, anything that's in blue is the highest score that school has had, and that's in that right-hand column. College and career readiness has a bit of a disparity, and if you were here last year when each of the principals presented their own school performance reports, Mr. Kuzmano spoke about why it's different. It really comes down to a difference in the way that our schools are reporting attendance data. So Long School has very high numbers, where you'll see college and career readiness for Smith and Long are much lower. That's a difference in reporting. So what we need to do is we need to clean up our regulations, our policy regulations, and make sure that all three of our schools are reporting the data and counting what absences are in the same way, because right now they're not. Just to give you an idea of what these numbers mean, and I should explain this too. So you see it says peer and it says state. Each school, Franklin, Smith, Long, and the high school as well, middle school, high school as well, but Franklin, Smith, and Long are each put into a peer group. Schools are given peer groups based on similarities in limited English proficiency, percentage of limited English proficiency, percentage of students on free and reduced lunch, and the percentage of students in special education. So each three of those schools have different peer groups. So you'll see, for example, Franklin last year, their score for academic achievement put them in the 59th percentile in their peer group, and the 51st percentile compared to all elementary schools in the state. Long School's academic achievement in their peer group was 64th percentile, but it's compared to a different group. Compared to the state, they were in the 67th percentile. So you can't really compare if you're looking to compare to three schools, you can't really compare them by their peer group score. You need to compare them by their state score, because their peer group score is a different score. But again, all of them had their highest scores last year. Now, they're not as high as we want them to be. You'll see Smith School, 17th percentile in the peer group, 40th percentile in the state. 17th percentile in the peer group is not where we want to be. But the year before that, they were 12th. The year before that, they were in the 5th percentile. So they're climbing each year. That's why their growth numbers are so high. So you say 17th percentile in their peer group and 40th in the state is not at all where we want them to be. However, compared to all elementary schools in the state, they're in the 70th percentile at the rate of growth for last year. So they're moving quickly. Again, their academic achievement level, the scores on the ask may not be as high as we want them to be, but they're growing quickly. And that's a trend we want to continue. Obviously, if the growth trend continues upward, then the achievement level goes with it. For the middle, I'm sorry, if there's anything else I want to talk about with the elementaries before I come to the high school. Check it out. Middle school, high school. Academic achievement is measured by the HESPA. College and career readiness is measured by students taking the SAT, scores on the SAT, numbers and percentages of students in AP courses, number of students getting a 3 or higher on an AP exam, and the percentage of students taking the PSATs. Those numbers have been pretty close to the same. They're a little lower last year than they were in previous years, but essentially they're kind of hovering around 30, 40, and again, not where we want them to be. But as you all know, we had all of our sophomores and juniors this year take the PSATs. We've increased the number of students taking AP courses this year, and we have more AP course offerings in our schedule already this year. So we should see, when we see those 14, 15 numbers, again, a trend upward. That college and career readiness number should be much higher. And you heard last month, if it was last month or the month before, Mr. Lawler and Mr. Gelber presented the new program of studies, and you see there that there's even more AP courses being offered and added. So again, we anticipate that changing quite a bit. The most alarming thing on there would be the graduation post-secondary. What that measures is the number of students, or a percentage. It's a percentage of students graduating in 4 years. Now, our numbers went from 88 to 30, well, I'll read you the state numbers. 59th percentile to 42 to 36. So they've gone down each year. When we looked at our rate, it went from 92% to 89% to 87%. Now, the issue with that, again, and it's not an excuse, it's an error on our part. We had 134 students last year in our graduating class. 8 of them were coded incorrectly in the data that was submitted to the state. So 8 students out of 134 is a change in percentage points that puts us back to where we were that first year. What happened is essentially this. 8 of them, there were 9 students. 8 of them were coded incorrectly. 1 of them did not graduate. When these 8 students entered their senior year, they did not have enough credits. When they entered their 4th year of high school, they did not have enough credits to qualify as a senior. They did graduate on time because they had course recovery, and they made up those credits in their senior year, and they did graduate. However, when they're rolled over in our system and reported to the state, it looks like they took an extra year to graduate because in their 4th year, they were reported as juniors. When they satisfied through that year, halfway through that year, when they actually got to senior status, we did not update our report. So it looks like those 8 students actually graduated in 5 years. They didn't. Again, they didn't have enough credits and they needed some course recovery, and we don't want that. We want everyone to have enough credits each year to move on and be categorized in the correct grade level for where they are. So that is something we want to address. But again, next year we anticipate that number will be back to where it was in the 11-12 school year. So again, these are all very, very positive numbers that really show growth and progress each year. And that's something that we're proud of, and that's something that we expect to continue each year into the future.
Since those 8 students were included in the junior scores and never taken out, does that affect the totals on your that high school, middle school figure? Wouldn't that?
Well, they're not included in scores.
Okay, in the percentages that were up there.
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking. So as far as the graduation piece goes,
There were 8 students that weren't counted.
right, and that's why those numbers were low. It's not that they weren't counted. It appeared from the way we reported it that it took them 5 years to graduate as opposed to 4. So the
Okay.
graduation rate is reduced because it's a 4-year graduation rate.
But would those 8 students affect the rating on the high school, middle school, seeing how they're lumped with the juniors? For
Well, which rating do you mean? I mean, is it, because,
any of them in general?
well, they're included in those college and career readiness numbers. They're in there, and in the academic achievement numbers, they took the HESPA, so they're in there as well. Yes.
Okay,
You're asking if they count in each of those 3 categories? Is that what you're asking?
yes.
Yes, they do. Okay, let's move into the agenda. Okay. Student services, items 1 and 2, you can see, for board members, you can see the reference provided by Mr. Rao. If you have any questions on those? All right, under curriculum, we have a final exam exemption. Actually, our student rep reported on this last month for the first time, and then Mr. Lawler and Mr. Gelbert kind of touched on it a little bit. It's a non-action item because it's not something that requires board approval, but I think it's something that's very important to highlight and I want to talk about. So our student council, our high school student council, came to the high school administration with an idea of proposing exemptions for final exams. This is something that a lot of high schools are doing. For a few reasons. It's engaging, it's motivating to students because if you earn an A average for the year, you could be exempt from the exam, so it's something that motivates them throughout the entire school year. And recently, and even before, the Governor's Commission recently came out with a report recommending that schools look to reduce assessment in their districts, which is interesting because the state mandates a lot of testing. And of course, they recommended that districts look at their own testing because the required standardized testing is not going to be one of the ones that they would eliminate. So us, like all other districts, are, again, looking into how we can regain instructional time and minimize time taken out of instruction for assessments. And so Mr. Lawler put out a survey and spoke to middle school, high school staff about this idea. And again, like I said, it came from the student council. They examined some different options for it, and different structures, whether it be students in grades 9 through 12, or juniors and seniors, or an average for half the year as opposed to full year. They just kind of looked at different ways to do it, and overwhelmingly, teachers came back in favor of it. Obviously, the students were as well. It came from them, so it's really empowering for our student government to make a difference and make a change in their school. Beginning this school year, and that message will go out, that students in grades 9 through 12 who have an A or higher average for their courses throughout the year will be exempt from the final exam. So I think it's a great example of like I said, student empowerment and student engagement in the school, and a way for us to gain back some instructional time that's lost due to all the testing. Any questions, comments? Items 1 and 2 under business and board are workshops and field trips. The only thing I'd like to point out, obviously you can see there's a lot of INRS training. We are sending teams from each of our schools, so it looks like a lot of people because it is a lot of people because there are representatives from every school in the district. The idea is to train all of our teachers together, the same place at the same time, so that we can do a better job of standardizing our practices and procedures for our intervention committee across our schools. It's something we started to talk about last year. Mrs. Madison, guidance supervisor, developed a manual, an IRS manual that we didn't have in place before. that's also going to help with that. And once we conduct this training, we can really look to make sure that we are operating the way we're supposed to and servicing these at-risk students in the best way possible. So it's in Kane University, and there'll be 2 pieces to it. So this is one training, and then the next one either will be in the spring or possibly in September. The cost is, as you can see how it's all laid out, but it's $150 per team for a team of 5. That's how it plays out. So that's why some people have subs and some people have 150. It's a team of 5 for $150. Okay. Ready to cover items 3 through 5?
Sure, items 3 through 5 relate to our referendum that was approved. We got an early jump on going out to bid for 3 and 4 of the roof projects. The number 3 covers all of the high school roof that was in the referendum. And they have a total bid there, total project cost of a little over $1.1 million. The project estimate for the high school was $1,265,000, so we were under that project estimate, which is great news. Number 4 is the roof sections at Franklin Long and Smith schools that were in the referendum. The total cost there would be $675,000, and the total estimate of those roof areas was $824,000. So with both roof projects and all the roofs bid, we're about almost $240,000 under our project estimates, which is great news. Number 5 is the window replacements at Franklin and Smith. Franklin's to complete the front of the classroom second level and the basement windows, and Smith is the gym windows. We're open the bids on tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and if everything goes well, we're looking to have a recommendation Wednesday's meeting to approve those bids. Once everything's approved on Wednesday night, we'll go ahead and issue the purchase orders and contracts so we can get on the contractors list to get an early jump on these for completion in the summer of 2015. Any questions on those?
Mr. Chair, what is the warranty on the roofing that was coming in?
The roof projects will have a 20-year warranty.
Okay, and it was the same for all the bids?
Yes, for the high school and the elementary schools.
Thank you.
Committee reports. I know we have a budget committee meeting on Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Building and grounds.
Yes. We met on Wednesday, I believe, the 4th. We actually met with Mark and Nick from Pomptonian, and they discussed the Healthy and Hunger Act, which includes the Smart Snack Program, farm stand concept, which was a salad bar, which Smith School had, and it was a great success. And just to note that Pomptonian received an above and beyond award for their farm stand concept. They're also waiting on a waiver from Congress for the opportunity to have a choice of whole grain and a regular meal throughout the state, not just Saddlebrook. And they're also going to be trying to introduce premium meals made by Chef Vinny in high school. Ray covered the referendum. We would also like to thank the DPW for donating a plow and 40 yards of clay from Veterans Field, which was a savings of about $10,000, I believe, for the district. Keep it safe.
Yeah, it's possible, yes.
And we also believe the district is going to have to start thinking about some maintenance vehicles soon, due to the fact that they will have over 150,000 miles on them, and they're deteriorating daily. The maintenance will start renovating the track sand pit and jump lines, and also the visiting bleachers. And we would like to thank the maintenance and custodial staff for doing which Dr. Katz already said, for doing a great job with recent snow removal and daily tasks. And congratulations to Mr. Saraki for his first year anniversary, and he's doing a great job. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Mrs. Borelli, curriculum, technology, and programs.
Yes. At this meeting, Mr. Garrick was present, myself, Ms. Sanchez, Mr. Boofy, Dr. Katz, Mr. Karati, Mr. Lawler, Mr. Gelber, Ms. Steiner, Mrs. Steiner, Language of Arts, Social Studies Supervisor, and Mr. Javal, Supervisor of STEM. Meeting started at 5 and was over around 8 o'clock. We discussed many things, but the first thing we spoke about is looking to implement in September 2015 for the middle school, high school, a consultative model. This serves as the least restrictive environment for a student that receives special education services, but does not need a separate environment for learning in an area or the presence of a second teacher for every minute of instruction in general education classroom. How this helps the student: highly qualified teacher provides instruction in the general education teacher. Special education teacher is a consultant to the general ed teacher in such areas as the IEP accommodations, application of skills in general education setting, goal progress, and other related areas of need. Special education teacher also provides strategy and skill instruction outside the general education classroom as needed. Special education teacher provides remediation, pre-teaching, or reteaching outside of the general education class as needed. Also, graduation requirements. Financial literacy. All Saddlebrook High School students need to have a half year of financial literacy, financial planning, or consumer economics by the time they graduate. Midterms and finals, Dr. Katz touched upon. However, further discussion will take place in the future to possibly eliminate midterms and finals for the next school year. Math textbooks, currently piloting 2 different resources, and will make a decision by the end of the school year on what math textbook is a good fit for our students in our district. District teams and topics. Assessment committee has been meeting regularly and consists of our K-12 supervisor of language arts, social studies, and K-12 supervisor of STEM, school administrators, and teaching staff. Purpose is to develop a philosophy for why we assess students and how we want to use that data. The committee has examined all of our current practices to determine if they meet our needs. They are in the process of developing different types of assessments for elementary schools to be aligned in curriculum and instruction. The middle school and high school are also reevaluating their assessment needs for student achievement. Our technology team has been working hard to be ready for the park assessment in March and May. Test runs have been done throughout the district on all our computers to determine any technical difficulties. All went well. However, more computers will be needed to meet the demands and changes of technology today and in the future. Curriculum training and template. We are in need of a current and up-to-date curriculum that incorporates the Common Core standards and the New Jersey curriculum standards in order to improve in our teaching practices for grades K-12. Our curriculum supervisors have created a district-wide template in order for our teachers to use in creating a new curriculum for our school district. Our district will use an understanding by design curriculum model. This format encourages authentic transfer of knowledge and provides opportunities for students to explore and interpret new information and knowledge. The underlying assumption is that understandings are constructed in the minds of the learners. The 3 stages to this process are identify the desired results, determine the acceptable evidence, and plan the learning experience instruction. Stage 1, identify the desired results. This step consists of determining what the student should know, understand, and be able to do by the end of the unit or lesson. This is also known as big ideas, which are core concepts, principles, or theories that need to be understood or implied by the content standards. Stage 2, determine acceptable evidence. How are we going to assess that the students have understood and achieved the enduring understandings? What will be acceptable evidence of their understanding? The purpose is to tailor the curriculum to ensure that the collected assessment evidence fits with the confirms the desired results outlined in the first stage. And stage 3, plan learning experiences and instruction with the desired results identified in the acceptable evidence determined, the instructional activities need to meet the desired results, but will need to be taught how best to teach it and how it matches up with desired performance standards. The general guideline is to determine how to make the learning process engaging and effective given the desired results and the evidence needed. Full day kindergarten. Currently piloting the Teaching Strategies Gold assessment in kindergarten classroom this year. Teaching Strategies Gold is an authentic, ongoing observational system for assessing children from birth through kindergarten. Helps teachers to observe children in the context of everyday experiences, which is an effective way to learn what they know and can do. Teaching Strategies Gold is based on 38 objectives for development and learning that include predictors of school success and are based on school readiness standards. The objectives are aligned with the Common Core Standards, state early learning guidelines, and the Head Start Child Development and Early Learning Framework. These objectives are at the heart of the system. Teachers use them to focus their observations as they gather information to make classroom decisions. Writer's Workshop. Our teachers are trained in the program so that students are given opportunities to write in a variety of ways. It helps foster a love of writing. It also allows teachers to meet the needs of their students by differentiating their instruction and gearing instruction based on information gathered throughout the program. And last but not least, the 6th grade science update. New Jersey districts have been given until 2017 to revise science curricula to address the next generation science standards, which categorize 6th through 8th grade science into earth, space, science, life science, and physical science. The transition process for the earth, space, science to be consistently addressed in 6th grade began in fall of 2014. Materials and training to support approximately half of the earth, space, science standards were given by the middle school science staff to the 6th grade science staff in fall 2014 to implement by January 2015. Beginning the transition to earth, space, science for 6th grade in 2014-15 would allow the necessary time for the 7th grade to fully address life science, for 8th grade to fully address physical science by 2015-16 and 2016-17. One logistical difficulty has been the distribution of materials among 3 schools that were previously used to teach at one location. Additional training and materials will be needed for the 6th grade science staff to fully implement the earth space science standard for the 2015-2016 school year. The end. But not totally. I'm finished.
Thank you,
Always
Mr.
to be
Corral.
continued.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Negotiations, Mr. Quinn?
Yes, negotiations committee has met 3 times over the past month. We met today with the teachers union for the first time. Our next meeting will be on March 9th with them, and I will discuss the particulars of that closed session later.
Any correspondence? No. Any old business?
I have goals update, which, well, last month I gave a very extensive update of every goal. The only update this month is I talked about some of the security changes we wanted to make to, again, bring some consistency, more consistency, not some, there already is, but more consistency and more efficiency to our emergency drills. I told you I met with Tommy Johnson from the Southbrook Police Department, and he was going to speak to Chief Kugler about those changes, and the police department has approved all the changes we would like to make. So we're going to go and move ahead and start preparing for that, but we're going to make the changes in September because, again, to tweak drills and terms in April, again, by the time we get that out to our leadership team and through the staff, it's April, maybe May, is probably not the best thing from a safety perspective. So we're going to implement those in September. Okay. Second item is about CUSAC. We had our CUSAC visit, and as expected, the scores haven't been certified yet, but we knew that we would not have the passing score in instruction and program, so that's exactly what we thought it would be. What happens when you don't meet the required score of 80 or above is that the state comes back in 6 months to do a follow-up and see what progress you've made, and their expectation is that you're in compliance at that time. We know that we need to revise all of our curriculum in every grade level, in every content area, and that's not necessarily realistic to do in a 6-month period, especially when we're following the process that Mrs. Bradley just explained. It's time consuming if we want to do it right and we want to do it well, and that's what we want to do. So we have a choice of putting some things together very quickly to put us into compliance, but that are not necessarily of the quality that we want, or trying to stay the course and meeting with them in 6 months and seeing what they tell us at that point about what to do next. The next step after that probably is a little more paperwork as far as creating a long-term plan that has to be submitted to the Department of Education, and probably a little more oversight from them, staying on top and checking on our process. At this point, we are going to wait, and we're going to keep doing the work that we're doing because we think that that's what's best for our students and for our staff. And in 6 months, if the department gives us a little more direction, and I guess I mean a little more direction, not that they're not telling us what to do, but pushing us is what I mean, to do something more, then we'll try to work with them at that point. But we really want to keep going with the process that we're doing because it's working and it's the right thing to do. So we'll revisit that when they come back for their visit.
Any new business? Okay. May I have a motion to open the meeting to the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Residents are requested to state their names and addresses and subject matter. In the event it appears the public comment portion of the meeting may exceed 45 minutes, the presiding officer may limit each statement made by a participant to 5 minutes duration. Issues raised by members of the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding students and employees of the board are discouraged and will not be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the laws of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will it be liable for any comments made by members of the public. Members of the public should consider their comments in light of the legal rights of those affected or identified in their comments and be aware that they are legally responsible and liable for their comments.
Hi, Amy Higgins, 228 Saddle River Road. I just wanted to bring something to the board's attention about some of our high school students this past week. Our photo teacher in the high school's apartment was robbed, and she lost about $2,000 worth of her own equipment. And the kids, most of her students, and some of the other students in the school actually went online and found her stuff on Craigslist, and it got reported to the police, and she has since gotten almost all of her equipment back through the help of these kids who found the items. And they had also, on their own, set up a GoFundMe account to raise money for her to replace her equipment. And now, in less than 2 days, they raised $2,000 for her. Since she got her equipment back, they have offered to give everybody their money back. But most of the parents, or most of the people that donated, are donating the money to the photo club. But I just wanted you guys to know, I just thought it was such a great thing that these kids on their own, without even telling her, they set up this fund to try to help her out. And they, like I said, they were the ones that helped to find the stuff on Craigslist, which inevitably helped the police department to get the stuff back. So I just wanted that to be recognized.
Thank you, Mrs. Higgins. Very nice. Anyone else?
Omar Rodriguez, 275 Madison Avenue. I just want to make a quick comment through the chair that if I'm just find in the future any comments, especially from employees coming here, I will follow due proper course. Whoever is employed by the school, they have to understand that before or after school, they still represent the school. And to make any comments or any negative comments about any taxpayer coming through here, it could be liability. Thank you. First and foremost, I would like to mention that I Oprah some documents. And first and foremost, I would like to know through the chair, if I may, I don't know if the attorney is Ms. Machado, I'm not aware of that. If the attorney is Ms. Machado, but through the chair, I would like to ask why I haven't received a detailed bill like I requested. I Oprah, and I just received the total of the bill. The minutes, but I don't see the detailed report of every single phone call as requested. May I ask why? Through the chair, may I ask? Because I was never responded.
The district doesn't, well, I gave you the bill that the district has. We don't have a detailed phone number.
I request, when you ask to the carrier, they can provide you with a detailed report. And that was the main reason, because if the district is paying for personal cell phones, I would like to know how those minutes are being expended. And I believe it's a fair request, unless they tell me that it's legal or there is a problem, and that's why through the chair I would like to know if it's any of that in existence, why I didn't get the requested documents.
Is on or not. Can you hear me?
Red, if it's red.
I can't see with the glare. I would make a suggestion. During public comment portion, it's not recommended that you engage in a discussion. I think you should take down what members of the public, including Mr. Rodriguez, are saying, and if we are able to respond at the end of the public portion, we can certainly do so, and handle it that way so that everybody has a fair opportunity to speak.
Okay, okay.
And I can address that at the end.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I will accept that from you, Mr. President, if you want to go that route, but I just want to make sure that if you decide to do that, the problem that is going to be another issue on Wednesday, and it's going to be an issue next month, and over and over and over again, every month it's going to be the same. Because the questions, I believe, should be properly responded one way or the other, and it's your choice. That the attorney is just making a recommendation, and like I said, from the day one when I came here, by the way, I totally opposed to the language that it was written down to the public, or for the public, and still I'm not happy with how it reads. It's a poor language, and I requested to be changed, the language, otherwise I will follow proper procedures. I said that, and I said that I will give the district 48 hours, and you guys did change it, because no one can tell me that I'm not going to come and make negative comments right here about the school district or any of their employees. So there is no way that will violate my constitutional rights. By the way, now I just read, if you want to discuss, you will have to give rights notice, but I read in the paper, as a matter of fact, the same law firm in a surrounding town, I believe it was Clifton, I was engaged almost in a similar act, and it's my understanding that they just resigned from some legal work from Clifton, but that's not the issue. The issue is that I know my constitutional rights, and I can come over here, and it's your call whether you want to respond or not. But I just want to advise you that if you do not respond to the questions right now, and you just wait for the public to just close, it will be an issue again, because you can just be able to respond and talk all you want, but then we won't be able to rebuttal. That's up to you. With that being said, and again, it's your call whether you're going to respond or not, but I found some faults on some of the documents that I requested. And again, I would like to see the detailed bill or phone bill report of every single phone that the district is paying. Some of them are not even being used. Minimum, very minimum, some of them. Maybe it's a time to analyze and to see if maybe instead of giving them cell phones to some of them, just maybe use maybe some other kind of communication. That it might be cheaper, that it will just, we are just a 2.2 square mile in Sutter Brook, so we can't go that far. We can have walkie-talkies, whatever you can call it. But anyway, I would like to see the detailed report. If not, I wanna see something in writing, why not? Then, at the last council meeting, I proposed something to the council members. I'm mayor, and I would like to propose to you. Why not to look into sharing services? At the end of the day, the taxpayers are paying the same. I'm not saying right now to lay off or to anyone to lose any jobs, but by attrition. If someone retires, somebody just leave the job not to fill it, I'm trying to make a share agreement with the town. Somehow, we are paying a group of people to do the landscaping. We paying a group of people to do certain work up here, but we paying the same people to do landscaping in the town. Either way, the people from here can do their job or they can do this job. At the end of the day, it's just one pocket. So I guess it's just food for thought. Sharing services, I believe it's the beginning. Maybe down the road, it could be to buy stuff, to buy equipment. I'm glad to see, by the way, that all of you carry a laptop. I saw that is convenient. But then I also seen it that in the past, you guys used to do copies and copies for each member. I cannot even imagine how many copies, 2, 4, 6, 8, like 14 copies, I guess. Making to everyone a big packet of copies. And that takes a lot of employees to make those copies. My question goes to the chair. If in the past we needed that amount of secretaries or legal or assistant aides, whatever you want to call them, we still got the same number of 14. Are you looking for something? How are they filling those hours that they are not using making copies no more? Because making copies is a task. Putting the folder is a task. It can take hours or maybe days to put everything together. It is no longer there. But we still have the same type or the same amount of personnel. Roughly, just doing numbers on my head, it's like 14 secretaries that we have, 12, 14 secretaries, roughly $700,000 that we have in secretaries. The reason why I'm saying that is because I also request, I did an Oprah of any new position that has been created in the last 2 years. Through the chair, if I may, the position of assistant to the supervisor of building and grounds is a new one, has been created. If I may.
We'll comment at the end on all your questions, Mr. Rodriguez.
Oh, so then I can elaborate right now, and there is not gonna be feedback. So it's like me talking to the wall right now because I'm just looking for answers because I might be wrong on what I'm gonna say. But if you guys tell me no, it's been there already, then there is no need for me to pursue it because I'm seeing right now that is $20,000 that we are paying. A stipend of $20,000. I'm not talking about a person, I'm talking about the position. So I just want to know if it's being created or not. And if it's being created, so then I gotta assume that it's being created, then indeed, the original contract for the supervisor of building and grounds that it cost at the very beginning, $96,000, then just a few months later, it was increased to $98,000 as a base salary, then indeed it's not the real amount. Because then we need an assistant. But then, again, that's what I need an answer. But if I'm not going to have an answer, then I'm just going to keep on assuming. If that is the case, why not to have one of the secretaries do the paperwork? If we got plenty of secretaries. Food for thought again. But since I'm talking to myself, I guess I will keep on talking. Then, on the position of, before going to the position, this I'm gonna have to pick at your brains because right now I see some differences in the contracts. How could it be that for some employees they relay the address and for some others they do not? They redact the addresses of the employees. Which one is the one that goes? can you, when it's Oprah and a contract of an employee, are you supposed to provide an address or not?
We'll address all your questions at the end.
So you don't know nothing?
We'll address all your questions.
No, so
at
you
the
don't know
end.
nothing. You don't know nothing. So basically, you cannot even answer a simple question. So how is the president right now gonna tell me that he's gonna address it when actually I'm having 3 different contracts for 3 different people, totally different. One doesn't match with the other one. So once I sit down and you talk, there is no point because you don't know what I'm talking about. One contract says one thing, the other contract says another thing for the other person, almost on the same level. And I believe that it should be in a standard form, and a standard contract for everyone. So how can I just be talking by myself? This is a monologue. Actually, how could it be possible that one employee have holidays, all the holidays? Just to give you an example, you have the day after Thanksgiving, all Christmas, everything, plus 4 days. There are not holidays, but they got an extra 4 days. An extra 4 days, besides all the holidays. Another contract doesn't show that. Then, we have that in one particular employee, one employment application has almost 4 subjects related to his medical insurance. How could it be that for this particular employee that the district is willing to pay 25% of the value of the medical package if he doesn't take it, but then into another contract is $5,000 if they don't take it, or $25,000 or 25% of the total cost of the entire package? Why not to have the same standard? The lesser amount of either $5,000 or it's either $5,000 or the 25% of the medical benefit package. But just to have one particular 25%, it indicates that in a way they favor it somehow, because a package for any employee, a family of 4, 3 or 4 in the district is around $30,000. We just a co-pay for Genera $6 and a brand is $12. It should be around $29,000, $30,000 a package. So 25% is going to be $7,500. $7,500. Why to another employee that actually in this case, I don't know if I can mention, but one of the highest authorities right here, they just offering him $5,000 as a maximum if he doesn't take it. But for a lower key employee, they offering him more. Why the inconsistency? I believe that it should be a standard form for every single employee. Then, if it comes to addresses, the reason why an address is important, some shows addresses, another ones do not show addresses. The only reason why it is important, listen, you can Google, you can do anything, you can find it. But the reason why it is important, I believe, I might be wrong, it should be saying on the contract, is because who tells you that if you put the address right there, let's say for instance that I live in Spartan, and there is another employee making $120,000 and also live in Spartan, and he ends up that they are backyard neighbors. Isn't that a conflict? Or what about if they end up being relatives, but nobody knows about the address? If they got nothing to hide, what is wrong with that? Anybody knows about the address, you can Google. But the thing is that it should be in the contract, it should not be redacted. But I guess I got more time because nobody's answering nothing. Last month, I brought an issue about an employee. What was the reasoning? That if he was supposed to be hired in September, didn't take the job, let it go for 3 months, and now, last month, they take him back. Salary, base salary is $1,000 a week for a custodian. $1,000 a week. If for 3 months the district has been able to just move forward without this employee, why do we need so bad this employee to take the same employee? If we need it so bad, we should have re-advertised back in September or in October. But why to keep the position for 3 months and now having him back for $1,000 a week for a custodian? My point is that we are so willing to just spend the taxpayers' money so easy with no responses, and I claimed it last month, that if it's a necessity would be that you re-advertise, but you waited 3 months. Somebody else was doing the job. Maybe we have enough employees to cover that job. Why to just rehire the same person? I don't think that is right. And I'm just gonna bring one more, and I'll be back on Wednesday, I guess. Now I'm gonna bring more documents and start talking. I'm just gonna be documents because I guess it's the best way to do it. 25%. Last month, I also asked, why don't we have a standard and uniform way of asking for bids? Right now, there are some thresholds. From the top of my head, I believe it's 5,400. Correct me, Mr. Karate, through the chair, if I'm wrong. 5,400, 36,000 is the other one. And then after 36,000, we go out for bids. Why do we have to live in the hands of just one person that do not live in the area to just make the choice? Why not to do competitive bids and open up to every single vendor in the area, whether it's $20,000 or $2,000? Just let everybody put their names. Just bid on it and put on the list of vendors, a vendor list, in which you can have a say. Because not all of them will perform well. You should know what's going on. If somebody do not perform, so next year, you just don't put it on the vendor list. And again, I think that that's something that you should consider. But then again, I don't even know why it hasn't been open to the public at the very beginning today. But if you're gonna continue like this, on closing, I'm just gonna say, I think that the attorney is totally wrong. It doesn't surprise me. And I believe in the past, I corrected twice, so easy, and they have to back down because they know that they were doing it wrong. And again, I think it's wrong, and you as president should know better that is you are the one that run the meeting. It's not the attorney. The attorney just give you legal advice, and it's in your domain whether you want to respond or not. And if you will continue like that, all what you're just going to encounter is that I'm just going to make assumptions based on the fact that I'm not having an answer when he said yes or not. That's, if you got nothing to hide, you should just answer instead
We're
of just
going to
waiting on the
answer
other.
all your questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Marilyn Masello, 152 Claremont Avenue. I don't know if you're going to answer this, but I'll ask it. If not, I'll go based off assumptions. Through the chair, is it possible for Mr. Karate to give me an approximate idea of about how many hours were spent fulfilling the OPRA requests of the last 2 months collectively? I believe he does them, and I believe also Central Office Secretary also assists.
We're going to answer your question at the end. Mrs.
Okay,
Masello.
so right now I'm just going to make some rough assumptions. Let's assume that he spent 10 hours and his secretary spent an additional 5, collecting all of the OPRA data that's been asked for the past 2 months. I know that the business administrator secretary salary, I should say, I don't have the exact because I didn't OPRA it, but conservatively speaking, let's say it's about $130 a year, and conservatively speaking, let's say it benefits for $140,000 a year. Let's assume that the central office secretary I'm referring to, conservatively speaking, is about $80,000 a year, and with benefits is about $90,000 a year. If you take their hourly rates, that comes down to about 67 and some change for the business administrator per hour, and 43 and some change for the central office secretary per hour. If they just spent 10 hours, we've spent $673 for the business administrator, and we've spent 5 hours on the secretary, another $216, nearly $1,000 in salary to Oprah, 10 hours and 5 hours of work. State mandates how much we can pay for those Oprah documents. We get 5 cents per page. If that was 100 pages, we're only getting $5. Now, I want our money to be spent well, and if there is an issue, I support Oprahing documents, and I support investigating and researching and asking questions, but I'm concerned about the amount of time that our business administrator and our central office staff is being taken away from doing their day-to-day activities and the amount of money that is being wasted in this district for frivolous requests. Obviously, we cannot stop those requests, but I think it's important for at least the public and those that are still here to understand that. And if there is anything that the board, or state for that matter, can do to try and control it, it would be in our district's best interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kinsella. Mr. Karati, do we have any numbers on what man-hours for putting this all together?
I don't have
Do
it
you
in
have
front of
any
me, but
ideas?
I could get it together.
Regarding the phone calls, are we? Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Is there anyone else that would wish to be heard? Okay. Seeing no one else, may I have a motion to close the meeting to the public?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll address what I can. I'm a little disappointed Mr. Rodriguez left because I wanted to provide him with some answers, but I see he's not here. But for the members of the public who are here, Mr. Rodriguez is absolutely correct that I did resign from the Clifton Board of Education as general counsel. However, this is a meeting of the Saddlebrook Public Schools and not of Clifton, but I do want to advise the public that my reasons for a resignation were completely unrelated to the article that came out. With respect to the ACLU involvement in Clifton, that occurred nearly a year ago. All actions were appropriate, and the ACLU chose not to represent the individual involved. So if there are any concerns, I just wanted to advise the board and the public of that situation. We can certainly review the detail of the bills. My understanding is those are not public records that we have in the district, but I'd be happy to review that with Mr. Crotty. And also, I wanted to encourage Mr. Rodriguez, if he wishes to engage in a discussion, that this is not the place for that. The board is not required to engage in a discussion with any member of the public. The public participation portion is simply for the public to have an opportunity to address you on issues. If he wishes to do that, he can certainly set up an appointment to meet with the business officer, the superintendent, to engage in a discussion where he shares his concerns and perhaps even obtains his answers prior to a board meeting.
Ms. Machado, he wasn't just, I mean, if people were here, it was like, well, we're filming our meeting, so he was invited at the last meeting to come in and have a meeting with me.
Okay, and that's certainly something that I believe this administration would support and continues to invite him in to have a discussion with respect to that. With respect to employee matters, I know Mr. Rodriguez mentioned a couple matters. I don't have the details on those, but even if I did, we as a Board of Education are precluded from responding to anything on employment matters of that sort and student matters. I also note that the language that is on your agenda is fully compliant with the law. And lastly, and I will certainly defer to Mr. Karati, but it's my understanding that all of the competitive bidding and the bidding requirements under New Jersey laws are being met by Saddlebrook. I know I work closely with Mr. Karati's office to ensure that that is occurring. And also with respect to opening it up to various vendors, the public should be aware that vendors to operate as a state government vendor or provider, including myself, we have to have certain requirements that are met. and not all vendors have those requirements, so we are restricted in that way. But I can assure the public that all of the competitive bidding and bidding requirements in accordance with the public school contracts law are being met. And I don't know if the administration wanted to comment any further on any of those items.
One point I'd like to make is that we are in the process of sitting down with the council and with the mayor and looking to save whatever monies we can for the school district. We're operating within a 2% budget. It's very difficult to do that. We're looking at every nickel and dime, making sure that the money is well spent on our students. More and more money is being spent in the classroom than ever before. So with that being said, thank you. I'd like to move into a closed session at this time. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? To recess to close executive session to discuss personnel contract negotiations, pending anticipated litigation, and matters covered by the attorney-client privilege per NJSA 1046, Open Public Meetings Act. The subject matter discussed may be disclosed to the public if and when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Action may be taken when the board reconvenes in open session. Thank you.